How's the arm?
Especially because how's rehab going there?
How's rehab?
It's like the worst surgery I've ever had. I've had bad surgery.
Talking about that?
That will next, that's on for the next meeting.
Okay, so that's
Is
not
that-
on for this one.
We had a,
But no,
But I'm like,
because we.
That's a lot.
I know.
we talked about it.
One guy, I hope you're
I'm not
saying
crazy,
AI.
you're not crazy. No, because, you know, it's because last special meeting, but it's because it's like pounds to take action. Not special.
For next week, next time?
Okay.
Yes.
Right, I was looking at that after you left.
Oh, no, that tax, oh, yeah, I left my tax at home last year, oh, that really.
those are just the things that are getting voted on.
Good question.
So have you done any background on this camera guy?
No. I got a random email from, I don't know what it was, like.
Oh, the one, the ACLU
Oh,
guy,
yeah.
yeah, I got that too.
I feel that is.
We
I gotta tell you.
You all right?
I probably
All
agree.
right.
Yeah.
I read through the email. I
Let's do
probably
this.
agree.
I hereby call to order the regular Board of Education meeting for Milburn CC School District 24 at 7 PM on October 28th, 2024. Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
John Lorenzen,
Here.
Brandon Murphy,
Here.
Pat Schrader,
Here.
Jillian Phillips. Here. John Ruggles,
Here.
Brett Scuffstrom,
Here.
and Lisa Booster. Here.
Let's rise for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Madam Secretary, do we have any public comments?
We do not.
Right. Do we have any non-action items that we need to add?
I would like to add one, if you don't mind. That would be a late start.
Late start.
Yeah. Next board meeting, start at 8:30.
No,
No.
I know.
That's pretty good.
That's funny. Jumped on that pretty quick.
That would be an early start. We would push for it.
Okay,
Like, dude, after kids are in bed, you know.
Yeah.
that's it.
That's it. So do you want to talk about the non-action item or do you want to go?
No,
to-
go right through action.
All right, action items, board policies. Second reading and approval.
So that all of these policies, and Peter and Brennan can verify or disagree, are basically updates for law changes and references from policy to policy. If you remember the last month, we made a bunch of new policies, and those policies then cross-reference to other policies, and they all need to get their cross-references cleared up. There are a couple of exceptions, and I'd like to point that out. One being a completely new policy that is in line with law, which is that.
2270 probably.
Yep.
Yeah.
2270, discrimination and harassment on the basis of race, color, and national origin. That's a new policy. It's a separate policy. It doesn't change the law. It aligns with the law and what we already do, so. That is good. And also. 6185, we don't have a policy on remote educational programs. This is, generally, if we wanted to have build a program for a student that's working remotely, this outlines how we would have to do it. It's not saying that we have to do a remote program, it's saying a remote program looks like this.
And could that be used to serve things like students who don't have their immunizations? Or would that not be something like that?
I don't know if I'd use that one as maybe, I don't know.
If like they moved here, got lost, and you know how long it takes to get it to doctors, and they might need to do like 2 sets of titers for whatever, so it might be.
It
a couple
could
months
be,
if they
it could
don't.
be a medical issue, right? It's possible to be, have a medical program, remote program that would provide services for those students.
So I've seen kids, you know, be out for a
Right,
month
no,
at that because they just don't have the paperwork.
Right. that could be a different issue. I don't want to speak to
Got
that specifically, because that could be they'd have to be registered first and that. could
And you
be
can't register without them.
registration,
That makes
Perhaps,
sense.
but there's some rules where you have to register no matter what, so. We'd work with the ROE, but yes, in general.
Okay.
Correct. The other policy I want to point out is 420. Fund balances. Our board policy has a fund balance target of 15 to 20% or more, so the low end would be 15 to 20% of our revenue to fund balance ratio, which gets reported out on our annual financial report and in the plan, and we are over that at this point. And so we have health, but I would also want to point out that we have another board policy that states that we must pass a balanced budget every year. And what I've been saying for the last few years is that at some point, we're gonna have to strategically spend down our fund balances because we have work to do that's deferred maintenance and or we're just gonna not have enough revenue at some point because our expenses will outpace up the CPI inflation, which it happened this year. So just want to make the board aware of that at some point, we may have to change that policy. And that's not a bad thing. It means we're healthy enough to be able to strategically spend down some of those fund balances. Because we are currently above our policy on fund balance. We have that ability and really responsibility to maintain an appropriate amount of fund balance and not too much and not too little. In order to do that, we'll have to have some unbalanced budgets moving forward.
Move to approve the second reading of policies as presented.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent.
Okay, tax levy.
Excellent.
Let me pull up the tax levy presentation here and then Harley can go to.
All right, okay, so this presentation is for the 24 tax levy. It will be posted to the district's website tomorrow. It's kind of also just like a reference material for the public to refer to. But the tax levy is basically the amount of property tax revenue that the district is requesting from taxpayers to cover the majority of its expenses. As we know, our property taxes are a little bit on the higher side in this state, and that's because on average, public schools get about 65% of their revenue from property taxes. So last year, our revenue by source for fiscal year 24, we received 64% of our revenue from property taxes, 23% from state funding, 10% from local taxes, and the remainder, 3% from federal taxes. And if anyone is curious what makes up that 10% local, that's things like building fee rentals and fees from registration and activities. The second pie will not look like this going forward for a while, but this was from fiscal year 24 again, and how the money was spent was existing debt. So that last bond payment to pay off the middle school, and then the remainder, nearly 80% of expenditures went towards operating expenses. This next slide is a cash balance comparison. There is a state law out there that school districts are required to report cash balances. So I'm simply just doing that in this presentation to mark it off the list. But the cool thing about this and how it ties into property taxes is you can see between the months of May, June, and September, how the total amount of fund balance changes and increases. And that's because the majority of the taxes that are received from the levy come in June and September. We'll still get trickle in throughout the next couple of months after September. Go down to the next slide. There is a process defined by the state for the levy. Right now is the first reading of what is called the 2024 pay 2025 for fiscal year 2026 levy. So that means we're in the calendar year of 2024. The levy, these taxes will be paid in 2025 and therefore the fiscal year of 2026. So you'll see that terminology throughout the rest of this presentation. At the November 11th meeting, we will be asking for an approval for the publication of truth and taxation statements. So if you recall from prior years, we typically have this presentation in November. This year, we're having it a little bit earlier. That's because there's a new law that was enacted this year in which school districts, if they're going to have a truth and taxation, they have to post that document to the district's website 30 days before the public hearing. So that pushed up this whole process a couple of weeks. That's why we're doing this today. Posting the truth and taxation notice on the website would be around November 13th or 14th. The district would be required to publish in the legal ads. We use the Daily Herald, the notice of the public hearing, and then adoption of the levy, and that hearing would be December 16th. And then the very last thing there is that the levy is filed with the county clerk before the last Tuesday in December. So, and just to point out there, that footnote, the truth and taxation is required if the district intends to levy more than 105% of the previous year's tax extension. So we'll dive into that a little bit more as we walk through the calculation. As I mentioned earlier, this is intended to kind of be a reference document. So this page and the next page lists some definitions. You can refer to those definitions at a later time. Can we just jump up one page though? Really good.
Right.
Thanks. Yep. Thanks. So, and just scroll up to the top, please. Thanks. So the property tax levy is essentially defined by a calculation defined by law, and it takes into account these components. So we're looking at equalized assessed value, consumer price index, property tax extension limitation law, new construction, and the previous year's extension. This thing, PTEL here, property tax extension law, the intent of it is to make sure that, I wrote this down so lovely earlier today. The intent is to slow the growth of revenue to taxing districts when property values increase faster than inflation. So we are in a PTEL district. If we scroll down just a bit, there's a formula that we must use to calculate a limiting tax rate that will drive what our increase can be. So if we jump to the next table, this essentially is the property tax calculation. So it walks us through step by step the calculation of how much our levy can increase from the prior year. So it takes the estimated 2024 EAV and new construction. Those $2 amounts are provided to us by the county clerk. We take the 2023 extension, so the amount that we were given last year from the county, or from last year's levy, which is just over 13.3 million, and that December 2023 CPI, 3.4%. So the first step, which is really step 2 in this table, the amount the levy can increase. We take that prior year extension, the 13.3, multiply it by 3.4%. The amount our levy can increase is $455,000 or $455,021. Going down to step 3, the total cap levy without new construction. So we determine what the, or we take that cap levy or extension from last year, add the $455,000 to it. So our new levy for this year is about $13.8 million. And then we go to step 4 to determine that limiting rate, which will be used to determine what our new construction tax levy would be. So step 4 is basically taking the estimated 2024 EAV, subtracting out new construction, dividing it by 100 to get the EAV per $100 of assessed value. And then taking that amount and dividing it into the levy that was calculated in step 10. So we get this limiting rate of 4.4. Just pause there, any questions?
So that's less than the amount.
Well, so far,
So far.
we're getting there.
Don't follow.
Good catch.
Good, yep. Okay, so then step 5, now we have this estimated new construction out there, and that's kind of an unknown. The county doesn't really know what the exact amount of all the construction is going to be, but we want to kind of guesstimate how much we're going to get from the tax levy from new construction. So we take the estimated 24 new construction amount from the county clerk and divide it by 100 again, then multiply it by 4.4, that limiting rate, and we get just over $100,000. So we're anticipating of getting just over $100,000 from new construction. When we add that 100,000 in row 18 to the amount calculated in row 10, which is the levy basically increased by 3.4%. The levy from last year increased by 3.4%. The total estimated levy for this year, including new construction, is just over $13.9 million. So that's an increase of $555,624, or in terms of percentage, 4.15%. So right now, yes, it's under the 5%, doesn't need a truth in taxation. Let's jump down to the next slide here, anticipated levy. So this table is breaking out the amount that we anticipate getting, the $13.9 million over the 9 funds. We see there's an increase of 4.15%. We're in this limiting rate of 4.4. So these numbers are made up of the fund levy amount divided by the estimated EAV, need a pointer. So we're within these amounts, but if you recall from prior years, the amounts of property value are estimated from the county. So there is a chance that there will be more new construction than what they provided. And if we don't do something called balloon the levy, we could miss out on potential property taxes. So what we do is we balloon the levy. If we go down to the next slide, that means we ask for more than that 4.15% in hopes of capturing any new construction that may be out there. There may be none, then we won't be getting anything more than what is defined by the limiting rate. Again, this is just kind of a safety net. So what Dr. Lind and I are proposing for 2024 tax levy is an increase of 6.21%. That's $275,000 more than the anticipated levy. But again, it's just there as a capture to not miss out on new construction. Now, what the county is going to do over the next few months is they will get those actual property values and actual new construction. So they're going to have their actual limiting rate. And if it is less than what our increase is, they proportionally adjust the fund levy amounts that we're requesting. So we'll stay within that limiting rate determined by the county. Couple other things you'll see here, this yellow column has a tax cap. These are state mandated caps on the building fund, working cash, special ed, and life safety. And you'll also see that we're not levying anything under the life safety fund, and that's because we've brought in all the tax dollars we can for the life safety fund, which is a 10-year life safety plan that was defined probably about 8 or 9 years ago we brought in all the revenue that we legally could, so we cannot levy anymore under that fund. So I will pause there. It's a lot of information, very fast. Any questions?
Can I ask a couple questions that don't necessarily have to do with Milburn? It's just for my
Sure.
curiosity. That 3.4%, is that for all schools across the district, lakes and everybody, or is it just Milburn?
That's for PTEL district, so that's part of that limiting rate calculation,
Because that's all of Lake County.
So that's all of Lake County.
all of Lake County, yeah.
And DuPage
Okay,
and
so none of
all
the
of
schools can go over that unless they do their
Balloon.
balloon.
Well, we're still can't go over that. So yes, they cannot go over 3.4%. Even if you balloon, we're saying we just want to capture everything, and it could be capturing up to 4.15% is what we're anticipating with the new construction. But let's say new construction instead of 2 million was 3 million. That's gonna be at a 5.1% increase. We just want to make sure we capture the new construction. If that makes sense, but from a current property, it can only go up 3.4%.
And if you know,
All of the current, not yours specifically, but all of the current for,
and these numbers, are they set, if you know, and the short answer, please. What if 2,000 people say, I'm gonna challenge my taxes, and they all went down $1,500 and we lose millions of dollars of revenue? Are we still getting this money? And if we are, who's paying the difference? Or these numbers could change based on people contesting their taxes? Or once they say these are your numbers, you're getting those? It's just a curiosity.
yeah, it's too late to, the window for contesting your property value that you already got for this year.
Because we're a year behind. Is that it?
Right,
You have
So-
30 days from the,
you have 30 days from when you get your blue card or your paperwork to contest that. You can contest it then. So if you send in and do some comps and say, hey, you said my house was worth 500,000. I think it's only worth 300,000. And they agree, and they bring it down to that 300,000. That means the rest of us in the room have to make up that difference.
Okay, because I hear everybody say, I'm challenging my taxes this year, you know.
Go for it.
see all those
So-
signs up.
Yeah, you see all that, and I'm like, well, are we getting the revenue if everybody wins their protests? But so this is because it's past that, these are numbers that have already kind of baked that into the game.
Yep.
I have a question about the new construction. Is that new construction specifically in Milburn
Yes.
or is that
Yes.
the county?
No, just no.
I think one analogy that the previous business manager used to give with that, the question that you had, John, was it's a pie, and if someone's piece shrinks, someone else's gets bigger. They're, yeah, if someone's piece of their pie shrinks, someone else's piece gets bigger.
Okay, so the piece of that particular tax, it's not like they'll take the tax from, we got 12 different things on our tax form. It's not like they'll get less for
No.
the
Mm-mm.
No, just the
library or
milk.
whatever. So it's all within this.
Yeah. Yep.
This can just be used for reference, just an anticipated property tax calculation example showing someone's home value increasing 15% from 324 to next year. So it just is showing that property taxes would increase about $200. And then the very last slide is again, just a timeline of what we're looking at over the next few weeks in terms of approval for the truth and taxation hearing and then the approval of the levy in December.
And I think what got people a little worried this year was that when you got the blue card, the value of your
Yep.
house went up 13.5% because they did a blanket
Across the board.
across the board, everybody's house up 13.5% because last year they did the equalization. Where they looked at all of the houses and re-equalize them, because the tax assessor, what they're trying to do is make it fair. They're making sure that my house is valued appropriately to John's house, to Peter's house, to Jill's house. So that we're all paying the appropriate amount. If it starts to get out of whack, like if I sold my house to undercut somebody else and sold it for cheap, then it's gonna start to shift the burden onto everybody else. Or if I paid more than everybody else, I might get by with it for a while, but then when they do the equalization, it's gonna come back.
That's it.
To approve the reading of the property tax budget.
Madam Secretary, will you call the roll, please?
John Lorenzen.
Yes.
Brendan Murphy,
Yes.
Peter Petrini,
Yes.
Jillian Phillips.
Yeah.
John Ruggles.
Yes.
Fred Stepstone,
Yes.
and Lisa Brewster.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We have the parent-student handbook that was presented at the last meeting. Jake gave some highlights. You had it in your packet. Are there any questions?
Move to approve the 2024-2025 parent student handbook.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. School net maintenance project grant.
Okay, so the state of Illinois offers something called a school maintenance project grant each year. The application period is open now. Essentially, it's a dollar for dollar state matching grant program that provides up to $50,000 for building upgrades. So this year, the application must be submitted by December 31st. Dr. Land, Tim Smith, the Director of Buildings and Grounds, and I, we've been reviewing the different projects that we could put towards this grant. We came up with a few that add up to just over $100,000 that will help us maximize getting all of the $50,000 under this grant. So those projects include recarpeting this room. You'll see that throughout the room, the carpet's worn right around the corner by the door. It's actually worn all the way through. Replacing the carpet at the middle school front office, drum sanding the middle school west gym where the sports are played and restriping it. And putting new doors in the west and I believe east gym at the middle school. So the total for all of those projects combined is just over $111,000. This would come out of the capital projects fund. We have over $851,000 in there. It's work that needs to be done, so we're just offsetting the cost of that work with this grant. I just need approval from the board, specifically for John, after it's approved, to sign off on a form that will be submitted to the state.
Move to approve the school maintenance project grant for FY 2025.
Second.
Madam Secretary?
Brendan Murphy,
Yes.
Peter Petrini,
Yes.
Jillian Phillips.
Yes.
John Ruggles.
Yes.
Fred Stepstone,
Yes.
and Lisa Brewster. Yes. And John Lorenzen.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Awesome. Thank you.
Copiers.
And copiers, okay.
Craft again.
What was that?
Ms. Crab.
Miss Craft
Oh.
again.
Copiers, okay, so Milburn has a fleet of 11 big copiers. They range in age between 3 and 10 years old. Glasses on. So we have a few machines that have been breaking down repetitively. None of the machines, since they're pretty old, utilize what's called print management capabilities. So basically that would help us reduce waste through on-demand printing. So people would print from their laptops or their iPads and then go to a copier and then type in their code. It would spit out their project versus any potential waste of someone leaving, copying something and leaving it. So I basically met with a number of vendors, and a print management solution reduced copying costs between 15 and 25%. So to update the district's copier fleet and reduce waste, we collected proposals for a lease cost and a purchase cost of 3 black and white copiers and 2 color copiers. We got a lot of responses. 7 companies responded with proposals for 5 different copier brands. We reviewed the cost of purchasing the machines outright, but what Dr. Lind and I are proposing is leasing the machines for 5 years, because what that does is it enables us to use the most current technology with the copiers and making sure that those copiers sync up to the technology of the computers and iPads that we're using. So we received, it wasn't bids, we asked for requests for proposals, received all of the data. Compared the brand, the price of the product and services, the geographic location of the vendor and their response time, their project management capability and references along with past experience with the district here. And based off of all of that criteria and a weight assigned to each of those criterion, Canon scored the highest. So Dr. Lind and I are recommending that the board approve a 60-month lease to Canon in the amount of $2,030 per month. And what that includes is the cost of the setup
Per month or per year?
per month. So it's, yep, it will be $24,360
Got it.
per year but each year.
120 is 5 years.
Yes, yep. So it includes the machine, it includes all of the toner and the staples, the maintenance of it. If it breaks, they come in, they are required to repair it same day. And as well as the print management software. So it's basically a change from the technology we have, but in the long run will likely help us save some money. To your question.
This is for just, how many copiers do we have total?
We have 11, so and I will say, 2 are not really utilized. One for sure is not utilized. One is more used as a fax machine, which leaves us with a few. 2 are under maintenance with our current copy company, and a couple then would be remaining not under a contract with our current copier company, but they can still repair those as needed. I do believe that these machines are bigger than what we have right now and are capable of being a little bit stronger workforces, if you will. So the bulk of the copying is really going to start moving to these machines.
I move to approve the
Questions?
contract
Yeah.
for a 60-month copier lease with Canon in the amount of $24,360 per year for 5 years.
Second.
Madam Secretary?
Peter Federini,
Yes.
Julian Phelps,
Yes.
John Reynolds,
Yes.
Brett Skepshaw,
Yes.
Lisa Rooster,
Yes.
John Lorenzo,
Yes.
and Brendan Murphy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I really applaud Carly for the work she did on that. It's a lot of detail and reading through contracts and understanding what they're trying to sell us and reading through salespeople who are trying to push us into products that we maybe don't need. It was a lot, and she had this huge spreadsheet that finally laid everything out. I was very impressed with the work that you did, and thank you very much. And I think this is the way to go, and it became clear filtering through all of that information of, okay, this is what we have to do, and this is going to save us money. Maybe not immediately, but down the road, and allow us potentially as we transition this and get teachers used to just a little bit different rhythm, perhaps, that we use, especially with our printers that are located throughout the building. It's gonna save us money, because the per copy cost is significantly less than our current rate. But it'll take a little bit of getting used to. It's a little bit different thought process for copying, so, and printing. But should be good in the long term. Thank you very much.
Consent agenda.
To approve consent agenda.
Second.
Questions, objections, Madam Secretary?
Jillian Phelps,
Yes.
John Rebels,
Yes.
Fred Stefan,
Yes.
Lisa Brewster,
Yes.
John Lorenzen,
Yes.
Brandon Murphy,
Yes.
and Peter Petrady.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, our first information discussion item is our health life safety plan. And the reason we're bringing that up is because we need to amend the plan. So we are toward the end of closing out our current health life safety plan. However, we have $273-ish thousand in the health life safety fund, Fund 90. Like, somewhere, we have money in Fund 90. And we've closed out our current plan. Part of that current plan was to put cameras in the building. And we have some cameras in the building. We spent $20,000 adding a few more cameras a few years ago under the health life safety plan. But now we're looking at a whole new system and upgrading the system with software and cameras and locations to make it safer to protect the exterior of the building from vandalism and people messing around, and hopefully reduce bullying at recess. It's great to be able to, when there's a issue at recess, to pull up the camera and say, okay, yes, that happened, or yes, you guys weren't even on the same place. Where did the conflict take place? So this will help in many different ways, both outside the building and inside the building, of monitoring student behavior and also behavior of the public as far as vandalism, which we have had at the middle school, and have seen, I would say, a reduction in that since we've had cameras.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had some vandalism on the inside of the building when there was what was that TikTok thing?
Oh, yeah.
There was like social media things that were encouraging things. Yeah.
TikTok challenge.
Yeah, so I would say that's.
So this would be very helpful. But in order to do that, we have to amend our plan, because there's only $20,000 left in that. And this project, the first phase is gonna be about $200,000. We're looking at a significant upgrade, rewiring, the works.
Is there anything to enhance putting cameras on the buses at night? Because I know we've had problems. And the trucks, I think the trucks got hit too.
Can we
Right.
put cameras
That's a
on
good
the
question.
catalytic converters?
Yeah, pretty much.
Chain them up.
Little GoPros.
We did talk about it, that those options are a little bit sketchier because it's remote. We have to get it out there and it's not well lit, but we will revisit that again, because I think that's important. Well, there's other options that we're talking about as well that might be helpful, not camera related, but fencing and closing off parking lot at night.
What do you mean by software?
Well, our current cameras have software so that when I'm at my computer, I can pull up any camera in the building, or at home for that matter, pull up any camera in the building, see what's going on. And it allows you to track back, so it records it, and then you can put in the date and the time. Everything's time stamped, so you can go, okay, when did this event occur? Go to that time and then look back at the camera. So the software allows you to do that. That's what I mean by that.
So one thing, John got it, I'm sure all of us got a letter from a guy in the ACLU about AI and cameras and worrying about it being like a police state essentially in the school. Is there anything like that in these, like facial recognition, or, we think there is contraband in his bag based on the shape of the shadow the bag's making? Privacy concerns like that, or?
I share the same concern. Is that what you're talking about when you're saying software or?
No.
Okay.
No. Jake, these didn't have facial recognition capabilities, did they?
No,
I know there are some that do that.
I feel like there might have been something like if you were looking for a student that might have had some poor behavior choices that was wearing a red shirt, you could like do something so you could track people that had red shirts in general areas or something like that. I don't think there was a facial part to it.
So it's like data mining the video, sort of.
Yeah, but I mean, you'd have to have reason to look for somebody wearing a red shirt.
Yeah, there's not, we're definitely not doing like a.
Profiling.
Profiling or proactively, there's not someone sitting at it, looking at the cameras for safety reasons. It would be if there's an event or if there's a question, going back and finding those. It's a fair statement and it's been brought up before.
And it is 1% of our annual budget essentially, so it's, what else could it be used on? You know, if they're out there helping, you know, warm and safe. You know, if the only reason
Right.
is the, like, what about our air circulators? Is that another thing that could be? It's just ideas. If the cameras are already recording, just because it's not the top of the line, you know.
I think they were looking at adding more locations was the biggest issue. And our system wouldn't be able to support that. That actually, the company that we went with is out of business and can't support what we have already, so if there's something that goes wrong with our software. Believe we can't do it, I'm not sure. Jake, do you know?
Right now, Tom Landis knows enough to kind of try and fix if something goes offline or something like that. But it's just through our own tech department. Right, problem solving.
And then this is, I assume that if you can see it from your house, it's not closed circuit then, so I always think if you can see it, someone else can too. I share concern about that as well. Obviously, security would be one thing that I would wanna be assured of. You always hear about the baby monitors that people see
Sure.
from work and then someone's talking to the kid from the camera.
This would be through our filter, so it would. I'm sure it's possible. It won't break through. But you'd have to have the software and then you'd have to break through our own firewall. Good question. All right, we don't need a decision on it tonight, but that's one of our possibilities that's been requested. Okay, the next item is Veterans Day. We have Veterans Day celebration coming up on Veterans Day this year, Monday, November 11th. So we bring in veterans who are friends and family of our students and have a celebration and good time. Their school. In addition, we're starting to plan for a MLK, Martin Luther King celebration in January. So those are two events that we have during the school year to celebrate veterans and Martin Luther King. Some of our bigger pieces, holidays that we support and celebrate. Any questions on either one of those?
I think Milburn does a great job. My husband's a veteran, so he comes every year, and my kids are super excited by it. So I just appreciate that you guys do that for veterans. So definitely a nice place for us as a military family. So thank you guys.
Okay, and the final one that sorry. The one that I was adding was the late start. There's been a lot of discussion last couple of years, well, last year especially, about why doesn't Melbourne do a late start? Why can't we call parents in the morning and say, hey, it's a little bit icy. I know last year it would have worked real nicely because there was an ice storm overnight that kind of surprised us and caught us off guard. The city hadn't done any salting yet, and so when I got up at 5:30 to go out in the morning, I slid all the way through the driveway and out, and without being able to stop, and thought that's not safe at all. We have to call school off. But then about an hour later, when the temperature came up, the salt trucks were out, it was fine. So we could have had school at that point. I've been a little bit not opposed to it, but a little bit hesitant about it. Because first of all, it doesn't happen very often. It's a little different in Minnesota where I grew up, where you had late starts constantly. They get the roads plowed. We don't get that severe weather where it happens that frequently, and to make all the planning arrangements for it, not worth it, but it's happened enough in the last couple of years. It would be nice. The other thing is because we're tied in with so many other school districts, it's a huge pain in the took us. So we have about 20 different buses from different districts that drop off students at Milburn every day from around the county through that are housed here for CEDAL, and communicating that out to them is going to be a challenge, and I'm a little bit concerned about that. Is why I hesitate. It's a little bit more complicated for us. In addition to the 3 high schools that we feed into and the 11 districts that we directly articulate with in this area. So it's a little bit wonky, especially if they don't do the same thing. So our conversation will be with other school districts in the area. Are you gonna do it? Antioch is gonna do it. They've already sent out, Antioch 34 has already sent out information where they're doing a late start, or they can call a late start. So that's one district, and then superintendents are talking about should we do it? Because if we do it and Grays Lake doesn't,
Doesn't Antioch start
creates an issue.
like an hour before we do? So it would make
Their
more sense
earliest-
for them to do it.
Their-
Because
yes, their
they would have to make
earliest-
the call really an hour earlier than we do.
Well, I think their earliest start is 7:35, so they're about 25 minutes earlier than us.
Is it?
Yeah, it's upper grade. The first school that starts, I believe, is upper grade.
I'm
7:29.
comparing the upper grade. So if they start at 7:30 and we start at
8:30.
yeah, so an hour, they start an hour before.
Yeah, the
us.
middle schools.
So they probably want, we have an extra hour to make the call, right?
No,
But they
because
don't
our
have-
kids started. Well, bless you. Our band in the morning starts at
I
7.
forgot about that.
So our first routes go out at about 6.
And this would be,
6:15.
would this be for this fall, this winter?
Yes.
Or-
Just one man's opinion, and I'm open to changing it. I like having a decision made. Then you can make your decisions for the rest of the day, instead of waiting, okay, I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do. I may get a call from the school where, okay. You're kind of in limbo for those couple hours, but
Just give them the day,
just my opinion.
the magical day off. Give it. It's my opinion. Has Milburn ever used late starts? Everybody in this.
They're all the superintendents on group text. We chat that way. What's up? What's up?
Yeah.
Is there something more formal than that?
No, it's group text, and there's a district-wide spreadsheet that goes out about 3 days before every winter event, which drives me crazy, but. For every potential winter event. And some superintendents call it early, so there's patterns that are established, and every year it changes because new superintendents come in and have different ideas, so. It used to be, it would start in Wakanda and go to the middle of the county and then this way. Because the Wakanda superintendent always called it first. I don't know why. She just like to give kids the joy of a day off, apparently. I do not. I am a Grinch, so no, I do not like to give kids a day off unless we absolutely have to. And the reason for that is because it's really a burden for a lot of parents because they have to go to work. Parents have to work. If the parents have to work, the kids have to go somewhere, and it's real hard to get daycare at the last minute. If everybody in the county called off and the snow was so bad you couldn't drive around, that's totally different. Everybody's stuck at home. Then for sure, and then it's wonderful. But when it's one of those iffy days or it's just cold, not all of our parents have the luxury of staying home, and it becomes a little bit of an issue. And at this point, we're done on a Friday. So there's that. So the teaching staff does not want to have any day. We're done on May 30th, which I think is a Friday. So if we have a day off, we push over
Yeah.
to Monday. So there's all of that to consider. Good times. I hate it. Just wanted to give the board a heads up. What's coming down if you have any questions.
So if we did a late start, we would lose that day.
No,
No.
no, it still counts.
So
What would
we
it be,
get
like
4
2
hours.
hours or an
2
hour?
hours,
It's
2 hour late start?
and it still counts.
a different schedule for the kids.
Yeah, it's short. That's the advantage of it. Okay,
Future agenda.
future agenda items, building cameras, health life safety plan amendment, tax levy.
Superintendent report.
Our cross-country team did awesome at state again, boys and girls. Girls placed sixth-ish, I think. Anybody know? Was it sixth? The boys were sixth? Oh, Suzanne. Obviously. Sixth and girls or boys were 12? 13. So both had a great showing and it's fun to have both teams doing so well. Property taxes, let's talk property tax for just another minute. The property tax relief grant information just came out. We are 39th on the list of all the states out of 800 some school districts that are listed. We're 39th from the top, which means that we pay a lot of taxes, which is nobody's surprise. We are the second on the list of Lake County, so it's all Cook, Lake. Zion 6 is the first one at Lake at 25, and then it's Cook, Winnebago, Cook, and then it's us. We're the next school. So that just shows that our taxpayers are shouldering more of a burden than most. So here's the problem. They go to $50 million, so I calculated where we at, and that gets us the 34th district on the list, and we're at 39. Just outside the margin. Again, last year, they went to 35 and we were 37.
How do we drop?
So close.
You probably look where we are and then make their
They
decision.
don't, no.
You gotta start meeting some people
It's
over
the
there.
six against Milburn, I
Yeah.
know it.
But it would get us a million it would give us an extra $1 million. From the state, not from our taxpayers, from the state.
We get from
Oh,
the taxpayer somewhere.
Yeah.
That means from us.
So close, maybe next year. What happens is the people lower on the list, so the first year that it came out, we were at 100th, and then we kept moving up because the school districts are go down that took advantage of this. Started to move on down the list, which Milburn did, and then we got it for 2 years, and then now we're back outside of that bubble, and until those other districts take advantage of it and get pushed down, we're gonna stay right outside the bubble. And I think it probably has to do with our bond coming off too, so that might have pushed us down the list, I'm not sure.
We should take the top 3 in Lake County and then do 34.
Yeah, do per county. Yeah. Makes sense.
See, I had one more, our
Yeah.
Our, ratings came out today, so that'll be live next week, our school report card ratings. There's commendable or exemplary or targeted. We are commendable, both schools. The middle school is just outside of the exemplary, and elementary school was high exemplary, but not as close as we were last year, but there's a whole ranking system, and we can go over that another day.
Chronic absenteeism.
Killed us.
Yeah.
Again, but
That's a
also
nationwide
growth,
issue. Oh,
also growth. So I don't want to just blame it on chronic absenteeism, although being in school, I would think would help the instructional piece a little bit too.
But we're under the Illinois average, right? Even. the
For chronic
Illinois average,
absenteeism?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though we're high, we're under the Illinois average. Which is.
Right.
crazy, like 20.
But it's 6 points, and middle school is 3 points away from being exemplary, so. But the growth piece we're working on.
Mhm.
One area was math, which we have no curriculum this year. This is why we looked at the math last year and it did not align to the state standards and what's presented on IAR. And again, it's one test. I don't want to put too much emphasis on it, but it is something.
How's that going, or is it too early to tell?
It's too early to tell about results. I will say that it is difficult and the teachers are recognizing the rigor of this and are stressing a little bit.
So the implementation's been hard, or the?
Oh, yeah, any new implementation is difficult. It's different. It's not materials they're used to looking at. It's different, taught in a different sequence, and we are doing it by the book this year, so to speak. So because we want to do it with integrity and make sure that we understand what the curriculum does and not try to adjust it, and over time, if we need to make adjustments, we can, but it's tough. It's a big jump forward. This, talking to a teacher today, it's a significant jump forward, and it's tough on the kids are struggling. Some are getting it.
But the attitude is it's still gonna be worth it in the end. They all
It's-
got to.
What I like here, the positive about it is the rigor is there. It's tough. And the kids are responding. So that's what I'm hearing, but it is difficult for the teachers to. So we will see. Eventually, when things line up and we get years of this in a row, and you've got those elementary students getting through the middle school, then we'll see the results. Because it'll be aligned for one, which is great. That's all I got.
Business.
Just have one very small update. In my last board report, I was not here, but there was a paragraph about a school and library cybersecurity pilot program. So Tom O'Landy's, from our tech department and I looked into it. We reached out to our E-rate consultant, and essentially we would not meet the criteria to get the grant. So the E-rate consultant just said it would be a waste of time to even pull it out. So the grant, it's really emphasis is on funding low income and tribal applicants. So we'll pass it for now. But keep our ears out if anything changes.
Board reports. Anyone do anything fun?
IASB, I can talk about it.
Yes, business.
There was the Lake County Division of the IASB meeting. Brendan and I were both there. I don't know if it was Jake's alma mater at Highland Middle School. Yeah, all right, that's where it was.
My name's still up on the wall, I mean, my picture's still up.
Oh, yeah, that's the first thing I looked at or whatever.
In the detention hall.
Yeah, it was pretty cool because they had like a little string quintet, septets playing for us, like the students, not, professionals. So it was nice to kind of see that happening. Topic of it was, they had like 6 politicians there doing like 3 things that were supposed to be more like conversations on the topics of teacher shortage, school funding, and state mandates. But to me, it seemed more like a 15-minute presentation from the politicians and then 5-minute quick answer questions. So it wasn't much of the conversation that was promised, but that is how it is. So a chance to chat with some people there. Lakes had, so District 117 had a math fair that was at Lakes for kindergartners through 6th graders. So the high school students set up booths in the gym, kind of like a festival. They have the kids come, solve a math problem, do like a bozo bucket for how many points you get, and you stamp your sheet, you get prizes. So took my boys there. There was a handful of other Milburn families that I knew, some families that I didn't know with Milburn shirts. Regional Soup, Dr. Carner was there with his boys. It was a good time, and chatted with a former Lake Science teacher, now Antioch Science Department chair, who said the Milburn kids are better prepared for high school. Not talking academics, but talking more of the school skills, like bringing a pen, making sure your Chromebook's charged, things like that. So teaching things other than just the curriculum is getting noticed. What I got.
Good day.
Do you want to say how the parent universities have been going and make a pitch to the owl?
Yes, next Monday, and I made a mistake in the email that I sent out, so I'll resend it tomorrow. But both of them are here next week, next Monday night, 6 to 7, Parent University. The one in this room will be executive functioning, which is great presentation and a lot of information. It's the same topic as was presented at the first one on September 25th. It was during lunch. So they're gonna present it again, but in person. And I think it'll be worth it to come, even if you've been to the other one. So it was really good information. I wish I would have had that when my kids were younger, but I'm still gonna use it for now. And then the other one is going to be in the cafeteria, and that's gonna be talking taxes. And the title of that one is "Why is my school broke when my taxes are so high?" Explaining how Illinois is funded and talking a little bit about what we talked about tonight, just a general overview of school finance. And we have a growing number of families in our community that don't have kids here, so there's a little bit more of an undercurrent of, hey, let's watch our taxes because we're taxing us out of our house. I'm on a fixed income or something to that nature, so there we go. And there's truth to that, but yeah, the realities of our school and how they're financed in Illinois, so we'll do our best. Also, happy birthday to Brendan.
Yay.
Happy birthday.
Made it. That's impressive.
Where's my prize?
Board meeting.
This
Thanks.
is
Yes.
Anything else before we go to closed session? You ruined it, jeez.
I didn't hear what you said. So I guess I'm-
We're off the hook.
We're off the hook, no closed session, let's go home, guys.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
I was sure we had a closed session.
I know.